Gene Sharp, From Dictatorship to Democracy, A Conceptual Framework for Liberation. Delve into the world of political defiance as Gene Sharp unravels the complex web of dictatorship in From Dictatorship to Democracy, A Conceptual Framework for Liberation. This book summary provides valuable insights into the rise and fall of dictatorships, the challenges of transitioning to democratic governments, and the power of nonviolent resistance. Explore the practicalities of opposing authoritarian regimes and learn how citizens can reclaim control over their political and governmental institutions. Understand how dictatorships derive power and the crucial role of public cooperation in maintaining or dismantling oppressive regimes, ultimately empowering the oppressed.
Empowering the oppressed. Opponents can bring down dictatorships and empower the oppressed through nonviolent means. A shift toward democratic governments is happening, but a significant percentage of the world's population still lives under the rule of military dictatorships, repressive monarchies, or dominant political parties. However, bringing down a dictatorship is not enough. The aftermath may leave behind poverty, destruction, pollution, crime, and inefficient government. To prevent regression, citizens must be able to apply their own power effectively to establish and maintain political freedom. While violent opposition results in the partisans' deaths and more brutal repression, political defiance can alert repressive regimes that an agitated population is ready to gain more control over its political and governmental institutions. Dictators require the assistance of the people they rule, without which they cannot secure and maintain the sources of political power. Ultimately, the effect of nonviolent struggle is not only to weaken and remove the dictators but also to empower the oppressed. Defying Dictators. Oppressed people often accept their situation and negotiate with dictators, but the ruler's goal is to preserve control, making negotiations for larger issues ineffective. However, political philosophers recognize that the more brutally a dictatorship behaves, the weaker the regime becomes. Building an open society requires organization, skill, planning, and the effective use of democratic power. Resistance can come from nonviolent non-governmental groups, providing a mass of people to defy a dictator and form a base for a liberation struggle. Dictators' power requires public acquiescence, but constantly dominating a population requires an extraordinary expenditure of supremacy. By constraining the sources of that might, over time, reduces a dictatorship's strength and can lead to its demise. Overthrowing a dictatorship. Overthrowing a dictatorship may seem like a daunting task, but it is not impossible. Dictatorships are vulnerable due to their rigidity, resistance to new policies, bureaucratic inefficiency, internal conflicts, apathetic public support, opposition from key groups, or inherently unstable power hierarchies. Therefore, democratic opposition can attack a tyrant's Achilles heel by using political defiance, a powerful, recognized, flexible method of nonviolent resistance. Political defiance has three forms: protest and persuasion, non-cooperation, and nonviolent intervention. Political defiance is difficult for regimes to defeat, and it leads dictators to commit errors of judgment and action, which helps to redistribute power and use the population as a whole. Although a regime's opponents can use at least 200 specific forms of defiant, psychological, social, economic or political, protest tactics, activists must remain disciplined, fearless and nonviolent. When protesters apply nonviolent tactics consistently on a mass basis, they can shift the power balance, causing mutinies among the dictator's military that erode the dictatorship's power. Nonviolent opposition produces change in four ways: conversion, accommodation, nonviolent coercion, and disintegration. Overthrowing a dictatorship requires careful planning, but it is possible to achieve change without bloodshed. Winning the fight for democracy. Dictatorship is a scourge that leaves death and devastation in its wake. Overthrowing dictatorship requires strategic planning, and implementing an overall grand strategy, a specific strategy, tactics, and methods that will encompass the objectives of a democratic campaign while taking cognizance of the strengths and weaknesses of both the opposition and the support. In addition, external support can help to inform the world about the repression orchestrated by the dictator, strengthen the oppressed population, and prepare a liberation strategy. To succeed, democratic movements must not only prepare but also engage in selective resistance and other specific tactics as political weapons. Success is crucial, as all dictatorships leave a trail of suffering in their wake. Starting small, a blueprint for political defiance. Oppressed populations should choose modest goals for initial acts of resistance, focusing on non-political issues like safer drinking water. These limited campaigns show their power to effect change. To succeed, democratic forces must communicate with law enforcement and civil services to gain support and attract sympathetic officers. The path to democracy. A dictatorship loses power when its resources are scarce, and the people become determined to resist the tyrant. After the dictatorship's power erodes, a democratic space replaces it, and the people and institutions exercise greater control over their own destinies. However, it is important to end mass resistance and install a democratic government by assessing what parts of the old government should remain in power. The victors should not assume that a democratic society will bloom automatically, and it is essential to develop a constitution, open institutions, and a stable economy. People who master the principles of nonviolent struggle learn not only how to remove tyrants but also how to become more politically powerful. This knowledge strengthens individuals and entire societies, who may be called upon again in the future to regain or expand their own freedoms.
Gene Sharp's From Dictatorship to Democracy takes you on an insightful journey through the reality of dictatorships and the arduous path to democracy. The book's summary highlights the power of political defiance as an effective nonviolent tool for change. It emphasizes the importance of strategic planning, clear communication, and choosing the right tactics in confronting tyrants. As nations progress towards democracy, the responsibility falls upon the citizens to prevent regressions and establish strong institutions that ensure continued freedom and justice. Learning the principles of nonviolent struggle not only aids in replacing oppressive regimes but also contributes to strengthening individuals and societies to expand their freedoms and maintain democracy in the long run.